All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Word with Brownlow. Remember, no one is worthless. No story is worthless. And today, ladies and gentlemen, got a very special guest for you. Give you a couple of words about my guest. Graduate, executive, entrepreneur, advocate. All the way from New Jersey. Put your hands together for Miss Charell Star. What's up? What's up?
Hey, hi. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, first and foremost, thank you for being on the show. And B, I love the bubbly personality that is like oozing over. I feel the energy. I just said a couple of minutes ago before we got started, like the energy was going to be good. And I'm glad because you have quite an interesting story, but it starts off a little gloomy. But how
a little rough.
Starts off a little rough, but we're all about triumph over here. We're all about inspiration. We're all about the empowerment.
Exactly. I love it.
So we're going to start this interview talking about our lovely guest, Charell Star here. But we're going to go back. All right. So we're going to go back. Not going to go too deep into it, but basically this plays into what goes on now. You had a turbulent childhood. Okay? Mm-hmm. In and out of childcare. Basically, father was incarcerated for murder, and mother was on drugs. Let me just say, you know, as a person from the inner city, Chicago, you know, growing up in certain areas, you see a lot of that, and sometimes, you know, you see people, you don't make it through and they become, you know, champions. Sometimes you have those who don't. But for you, she's a champion, all right? Because let me tell you what happened after that, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Graduated college. Not only did she graduate college, ladies and gentlemen, hold on. She ain't gonna tell you, but I'm gonna tell you right now. Look at, listen. She became an executive, an entrepreneur, and now she sits on the board of CASA NYC and City Living, New York, NY. New York, NY. Take your pick. All right. So I want to talk about your story. Before we get into these questions, I want to talk about your story. So everything I just talked about, like, can you just give us your version in like a, little overview or what have you?
Yeah, of course. So everything you said is true, although I feel you make me sound like a superhero. But it is true. I spent my number of years in foster care, so bouncing around homes. My dad was in jail, still in jail. My mom was in and out of rehab, and so I spent a lot of time bouncing around from home to home. And it was hard. It was really difficult. The statistics for youth in foster care, growing up in foster care, are not good. Most youth who are in foster care, less than just over 50% actually graduate high school, less than 4% graduate college. So once you are in the system, it is very, very hard to sort of break out and sort of thrive and survive. And so I was able to, from just having really good, teachers around me who pushed me towards, making sure I got my education, to, just believing in myself and really having a foundation when I was really small. I actually had lived with my great grandmother. And so all I will always say about myself in foster care versus, some of the other youth is I was very lucky to have a foundation. Even when I was really small, I couldn't have been more than a toddler, but I remember her hugging me. I remember her telling me she wanted me. I remember her telling me that she loved me. And so I had that when I went into care. And so care always felt temporary to me. And so it was just, I won't say easier because easy is not the word, but I will say I did feel like I had someone who wanted me. And so I never felt discouraged or just defeated in those situations that I found myself in. And so, I was in foster care, bounced around. I ended up going to a private boarding school in Arizona, got a scholarship to go to high school in a college prep school. Then I went to college at Boston University. I lived in London for a little bit. And I came back and started working in marketing. Exactly, I know, London, like Emily in Paris, she's got nothing on me.
Okay. love it. Okay, so man, you live in London. After that, you come back, and then what?
So I came back, started working in marketing, started my career out in public relations, worked in that for a number of years before I started my own business. I'm a big believer in entrepreneurship. So I started my own tech startup around personal assistance, and actually where you could actually, very similar to Handy, where you could actually rent out time with a person to help you if you're really busy. But then I ended up selling that off and then sort of breaking into being an on-camera host. So I still do marketing as like my full-time job, but I also do a lot of on-camera work as a lifestyle expert, as a fashion expert. So I love what you do, Ty. I love the positivity that you put out there in the world, and that's what I'm trying to do as well. And I also spend a lot of time volunteering on various boards for foster care youth. So CASA NYC that you talked about is for youth who are in foster care currently. So, you know, babies all the way through 21 till you age out. And then I also sit on the board of City Living NYC, which is for youth who have aged out of care and are basically trying to establish a life for themselves and independence for themselves, because what we find is more than 50% of youth who age out of foster care end up homeless within 2 years. And so it's very important for them to have that, adult, for them to have that support when they first age out. So not only help ensure that they get a place that they can call their own, but that they can keep it and learn all those skills that you did not get in foster care. Things like budgeting. Youth who, survive foster care and age out of foster care, they don't know how to budget. They don't know about rent and how it's due and savings and checking accounts or anything along those lines. You've missed all of that. So it's like City Living really helps them get those basic establishments so that they can stay in their homes.
I love it. And you just shed light on some things I feel most may not really understand. I've been in education for the last almost 10 years now. And, especially being in special education. And, I've worked some places, I've had interactions, but I've always tried to see people for who they really are and, get past the labels and, just look, I'm here, and
Great.
I don't have to be here, but I'm here. And obviously I'm here for a reason, because I don't believe in coincidences. I do believe you're put in places. You have to figure it out what your service is going to be. Either A is going to be good or it's going to be bad, but you got to figure that out. But
it's very true.
So you figure that out. Because, that's just my philosophy, because it's not always on the people or the person, it's on the person who arrived.
Right.
You arrived here. They were already the way they were before you got here. Now you're here. So you got to figure it out.
I love that. And I agree with you 100%. And I try to, any of the youth that I mentor, any of the youth that I speak, so I do a lot of speaking around the country to foster youth, to youth still in care, and youth who've aged out. And I try to really instill in them, you get to be your own person. You get to choose from this point forward. If you're still in care, you may not have control yet, but start making those plans for when you actually are in control, when you can actually make your own choices. And if you do get to make those choices, make them. Make the ones that are going to get you on the path on where you want to go. That's not saying that things are going to drop in your lap, but the elements that you don't need to be around. Of course. The path you want to go towards. Make those choices to get there.
I agree wholeheartedly. Hey, conversation for a whole nother show. I'm going to get into these questions.
All right.
But we can touch back on that.
We can circle back on that. I like it. We were here on that. We're here on that.
We're vibing, people. Okay. All right. So, speaking of what's going on now, COVID, big thing, pandemic, not only here, it's worldwide, it's everywhere. And this is something I really didn't think about, until I really thought about this question. And basically, how has COVID affected foster care youth? Not only in New York, but USA as well.
Yeah, it's actually had a really detrimental impact on youth. A couple of examples, foster care youth. So in some states, we've been able to lobby to stop, now think about this, to stop governments, federal government, or sorry, state governments from allowing foster youth to age out during the pandemic because they would have no place to go. A number of states are still allowing youth to age out onto the streets during a pandemic. Think about that. Like, that's absolutely insane. And so, a number of organizations, foster care organizations, have been lobbying various states, state governments to stop that, to suspend aging out during the pandemic, because where can you go? Like, in a good year, 50% of youth are going to end up homeless within 2 years. Like, we know that. In a pandemic, where are they supposed to go? You can't go to homeless shelters. We know group homes are crowded. There's no hotel rooms, and you have no money. Why are we allowing youth to age out of care during a pandemic? So that right there has been I think, eye-opening experience for a lot of people who aren't sort of advocates, who aren't working with youth in sort of these situations, that this is sort of the world we live in, where it wasn't even a thought of what happens to these kids when they leave care during a pandemic. Another way that it's been detrimental, so those are youth who are aging out, so just awful. But youth who are in care, so let's say you had a court case and you're supposed to see your family or family visits, all of that got paused. Because, again, pandemic, we don't want to risk either you catching COVID or your family's catching COVID or the judge or your lawyers. And so we've got kids who are lingering in foster care right now, who can't be reunified with their parents, who can't go to the judge and have the conversations. Some who can't actually go to their doctors, because of what's happening with COVID and just needing social distancing. So that has been difficult as well. So you've got both ends of just kids not getting what they need from a system that's supposed to be protecting them. And so it has been really detrimental, not to mention just obviously, like a lot of people, lack of social interaction, lack of being around just other people. It's been very hard. It's been very depressing. Foster care youth already suffer from PTSD at twice the rate of veterans. So to have this additional sort of, loneliness, lack of, like I said, interaction, has been extremely, extremely difficult. And, I love America, but you're the worst sometimes, as well.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show too. No.
Because we allow our most vulnerable to just figure it out on their own when we are supposed to be protecting them.
And it's really sad, because you really opened my eyes to something, and this is even before the pandemic, that what you say normally when they age out, they end up homeless 2 years after the fact. Now that we're in the pandemic, there's really no place for them to go. So how does that gap get bridged? That's a key. That's key, because if you're telling me I only have 2 years of a survival rate outside of being in the system, then more than likely, I'm going to end up homeless. I'm going to end up in another system probably, because more than likely I'm going to be picked up on some pumped up charge for what have you, or loitering, or whatever, it could be something.
You've got to figure out how to survive if no one's given you the tools to do it any other way. So yes, when people, I always try to make sure I clarify with people who aren't familiar with the foster care system. Being in foster care is not like being a juvenile delinquent. It's not being a criminal. You end up in foster care because of two reasons: you were neglected or you were abused. Case closed. Something happened to you. You did absolutely nothing wrong to end up in foster care. Now, as you go through foster care, and we like to use the phrase, because this is the phrase, in loco parentis, that's what the government steps in loco parentis, as your parent. And as you go through foster care, and if that failing of in loco parentis has sort of failed you, what do we think the outcomes are going to be when you leave foster care? Because they give you $200 in a city like New York City for an apartment.
Oh, yeah. That's already like 4 times of,
Exactly. Like that is not a deposit on most apartments in New York City, let alone food, getting to and from work. Like they are not setting you up for success when you leave. So are we surprised that, a number of youth end up in the criminal justice system after leaving care? We should not be, because we have not set them up to survive in any legal way. And so we first, what's the phrase? We first make criminals, then we punish them, is sort of how. Exactly.
That's this country. Yes,
exactly. So to get to your question, as you let off though, but how do we stop this? How do we get in front of this? We prepare youth to live independent lives. We don't wait until they're 18 or 21 and shove them out on their own with no skill set to actually survive. We should not be allowing youth to age out without an additional support system. And so I love City Living NY for this reason, specifically because they are stepping in that parental adult fashion to say, yes, you want to be out of care. I get it. I understand. You did not get everything you needed from this system. However, we are going to be here to support you because we think there might be a gap in the education that you have in order to survive. And so we want to help you get those skills so that you can survive not only the next 2 years, but the rest of your life and thrive. And so really being that, mentor, that adult figure in their life, where if you grew up in a nuclear family, you would have, in a nuclear family, your parents might say, you got to leave the house when you're 21, but they got your back.
Yeah, right. Trust me, you coming right back.
Exactly. But if you do not have that, you are literally on your own. And we need to stop, again, punishing those who have already gone through so much.
So, okay. So that segues into the next question, as far as you triumph, beyond the stats, against, foster care children, because as you said, more than likely 2 years after the fact, man, we're here. And once we're here, all these other things come into account. Now, you sort of hinted on it earlier, you always had that sense of, look, hey, I know someone out here cares. I know someone out here loves, so I have that, that's embedded in me. But what else besides that got you through, being a statistic, in foster care?
For me, again, that foundation in love, I think by the time I went and went in foster care, and again, I was very young, but I had a good grounding in right and wrong. Now that's not to say I was crazy. I wasn't going to call out the wrongness of adults in my surrounding because I knew what would happen. But I did have a very strong sense of okay, I have to do this because you told me I have to do this, but I know this ain't right. And so that helped me a lot. Also, I got a lot of my personal satisfaction, my encouragement, my motivation from school. And I say this, to, when I talk to youth and they say they hate school or they're not getting what they need. And I feel so defeated for them because school was always the place I felt protected. One of the documentaries I'm in, Feeling Wanted, I talk about waking up in a home and no one being there. Literally, I'm a child and no one's in the home. I get up, I get dressed, I go to school. I don't worry about where the adults are. I just go to school. I spend the day there and then I come back and no one's back. The home is still empty. So I sit in the hallway until an adult comes home. Literally, I would have been there all day with no food, no water. But I just went to school. I was all right, I gotta go to school. I don't know why you're not here, but I'm gonna walk myself. And so I always felt that was a safe space. And so I always just gravitated towards it. And so I think that's really what sort of, I don't want to say set me apart, but gave me a path and gave me a purpose that I just wanted to keep following that and seeing where it leaded. Also, like, I know it's very controversial right now, and we talk about the Cosby Show, but seeing, actually watching a different world when I was a child, and seeing, Black women in college, and actually having that to sort of be like, well, I could do that too. So being able to actually see that, emulate that, I know people like to say, oh, you can't, if you don't see yourself, you can't be it, but it is so true. And so, like, all of those things sort of help me get through. And I just want that for other youth too, because I had a really rough time in care. Some bad things happened while I was in care. But I have talked to youth where worse has happened, worse is happening still. And so I can't even imagine not having something to hold on to, not something to strive for.
Yeah, it's a very, very vicious game sometimes, and the system, that's what I mean, very vicious game, it can be a very vicious game, how it's set up for one thing, but that one thing is used against you in so many ways, and sometimes it's hard to, even like find hope or even see like the light at the end of a tunnel when you're just buried so deep. And it's a mentality, you have to feel as if you're going to get out. And, once you make it out, never going back,
Right. You have to want to get out, and you have to like not let anyone stop you from getting out. Let people keep their negativity, let them keep their pessimism. You just keep doing you keep moving forward. And what I try to also tell you is like, don't aim for someone else's success. Aim for your success. Aim for what you want out of life. Like, stop. We don't have to emulate other people, but right from wrong. What you want to get out of life. And if COVID's shown us nothing, tomorrow is not promised. Like,
it's not promised.
Go for what you want, and if you don't have a crew that is riding with you, I'm sorry, leave them by the wayside. Like, you got to surround yourself with people who have the same intentions that you do, and who are going to like pick you up, who are going to cheer you on, who are going to motivate you. Those are the people you want surrounding you.
So, and I believe that, and you do need that. But I'm going to also throw this in there. What about those who are in situations where, the situation where I'm at, there's nothing but toxic. I'm the only positive being around here, and I'm not feeling too positive right now because, if this keeps up for another week, I don't know what's about to happen, So how can they, keep their head level and, keep, driving towards, the end goal, which is the light at the end of the tunnel?
First thing I would say is make a plan. Make your plan to get out of this situation. And your plan may not be, I can get out this next week. I can get out this in a month. I can get out this in a year. It may not be that because of the situation. If you are a minor, probably not that. You probably just can't leave. You probably are stuck in this situation unless you call the state yourself and ask to be removed. Right. You might be stuck in the situation for a little bit. So make your plan. Make sure you are, make your plan to, make sure you're going to school. Make your plan to make sure you are able to save some money. Find a job that'll get you out of this situation. Find someone to talk to. This is especially important. If your immediate situation is toxic and you can't go to a therapist, find someone who you can trust. If it's a teacher, if it's a mentor, if it's a pastor in your community, find someone who you can talk to and get these feelings out, and actually someone else who can bounce ideas off of, because that right there, that sort of support, that's going to be the support you need to take the next steps forward. But make your plan and talk to someone, even if it can't be your immediate circle. Find a pastor, like I said, find a mentor. If you're lucky enough to find a therapist, find someone who's positive, who you think represents the values that you want to have for yourself, that you believe in. Talk to that type of person. I I have never met a person who's actually positive, who actually is in a good mental situation, who will not listen. So I know it's hard. I know it's hard to ask for help sometimes. I know it's hard to admit that you are in a bad situation, but you have to trust someone. You have to open up. If you don't do that, you will continue to be stuck. That is probably the best advice I can give, because again, like I said, if you are a minor, you can't pick up and leave. Like, you just can't. If you are an adult and you are in a bad situation, your plan can be a little more tight. It can be a little more like there are steps we can take
to remove yourself from the situation.
Exactly. But if you are a minor, we've got to be a little more strategic. And I wish you weren't in those. I wish we didn't have minors in these situations. I wish that, you know, it would just be simple as like pick up the phone, but I can't. That's not true. That's not realistic for everyone. But make your long-term plan and find someone immediately that you can start having these conversations with to help you with that plan.
All right. There you go. Now, I mean, I think I already know the answer to this next question, but I just got to ask it anyway. So, what has life taught you about going after goals?
So I'd say for me, life has taught me that there is no goal too big to go after. Mm-hmm. And what I also say in that same vein, there's no goal too big to go after. There's no dream too big to go after. But sometimes you have to do things in bite-sized chunks. Okay. So you want to, for me, the big thing was having a place of my own after, bouncing around care for a number of years. And then, yes, I did go to boarding school, but, that's not home. And so, like really wanting a place of my own. And so really taking those bite-sized chunks of, okay, I made it through college. I'm paying ridiculous rent in New York City. How am I going to save? Well, I got to get 2 jobs. And so I worked, 9 to 5 as a coordinator. So that is the lowest of the low of the executives. Right. And then I also worked as a, in the clubs where you get a free shot. And
all right. Okay.
One of those shot girls.
Okay, shot girl. Man, look, that's another show too.
Exactly. One of those shot girls. Like, you want to have a good time? Here's a shot. Try this. Yeah. But that was how I raised money and saved money from my first condo. I bought my first condo at 25 years old. And so it was me working every weekend, in bars, in restaurants, like, here, try this new vodka, literally to save money to do it. And so it was bite-sized chunks because I was never going to be able to do it on my regular salary. So I had to bring more money in. And so just knowing that things are attainable, but you might have to, be creative in order to reach them. You might have to take small baby steps to get there. You might have to, take on more sometimes. I took a home buying course, and that required me to go to, I think, 6 or 7 classes on the weekend. But then I got a grant at the end of it. So they gave me money in New York to help towards my down payment. And so, there are ways to make your dreams come true, but you've got to be creative and take them all in bite-sized pieces in order to get there. So like I said, no dream is too big. Again, you can't measure your success by other people's. You got to go at your own pace, but it is 100% possible. And anyone who tells you it's not is lying, or they've given up, and you shouldn't be talking to them.
She just told you. All right.
I did. I said it.
Naysayers, get them out of here.
Exactly.
And we're talking about the positivity around here. All right. Positivity. Now, you already sprinkled in some words of wisdom, earlier about kids that are in foster care, but just bring it home for us. Your advice to kids and teens who are currently in foster care, going through it, just having a bad time right now. Bring this home. What encouraging words can you give them?
What I would say to them is what I needed said to me. This is temporary. The situation you find yourself in, it is temporary. there's going to come a time when you get to make a choice, when you get to make all the choices about your life and where you want to go and who you want to be. You need to start planning for those choices that you're going to need to make now. Spend your effort, spend your energy getting ready to make those decisions. Spend as much time as you can preparing yourself for the future and who you really want to be. And don't let the negativity, don't let the hatefulness, don't let any of that sink in. You are bigger than the situation that you are in. You are special. You are smart. Do not let anyone diminish your light at all. There is nothing that you can't do. Like I said, anyone who tells you differently, they have given up on life. That's not the type of person you want to listen to. You want to be your own champion. You want to be your own motivator. And I'm sorry that you have to be, but know that there is a path out there for you, and that what you want is out there. You have to go after it and let no one stop you.
Charell Star, ladies and gentlemen. The last name Star because she's bright like that. Now,
thank you.
I just told y'all, look, all right. But if people want to get in contact with you, or hey, I heard you on Word with Ty Brownlow, because we were watching.
Yes, and they should be watching. They better be watching.
But no, if people want to get in contact with you, how can people get in contact with you? To say, hey, Charell, man, look, I'm going through such and such, or just anything and everything, because you're very positive.
Well, thank you. So Instagram is always the easiest way to reach me, at Charell Star. It is my name, so easy to find me, and you can DM me through, you don't have to post on my photo if you don't want to, but you can DM me through Instagram, and you can also go to my website, charellstar.com. Where you can actually send me an email directly through my site. I do answer my emails, especially if they are from foster youth, because I want you to know that there is someone there. There's someone who will respond. And so if you want to reach me, you want to contact me, those are the easiest ways to do it.
All right. See, ladies and gentlemen, she just told you. Contact her. All right.
Charell Star.
Information over here. All right. And seriously, sometimes we just need support in our corner, and we don't know where support's coming from in life sometimes. So, here it is.
I agree with you. Sometimes you just need that person. It can be a stranger, just someone to say you can do it, someone to say you got this, someone to say I have been where you are. Don't let those other people tell you that you can't do this, because I have done it. You can do it. And
that will move you in a totally different direction than where you are now. I'm telling you, man, please
100%.
do it. Look, I am having a great time here. I'm loving this conversation. I'm loving the positivity. Man, I'm loving, just the vibe. But we've come to the very last question, the question that my show is known for. But I have to ask this question, so here it is. Miss Charell Star, what is the one word that best describes you and why?
I would say the word that describes me is definitely optimistic. Shocking, right? And the why is because, I have been through a lot of bad. I have been through a lot of bad, but I've seen a lot of good. I've seen it in people's eyes. I have met people who just want nothing more than to see other people succeed. And that gives me hope. I have seen youth who have had worse situations than I have actually come out on the other side and want nothing more than to help other people. And so that makes me believe there's good in the world. And that just fills me up with optimism 100%.
I have a word. Actually, it's two words, but they rhyme, so I'm going to make it one word. There you go, because I can do this because it's my show. All right. My word for you will be evolution, revolution.
I love it.
There you go. And the reason being is when you revolve, okay, you start. You have to, eventually at some point you come back, to the same point. But during the time that you're coming back to that same point, you're not the same person. You know, life has taught you, so much. You have evolved into something different, something positive, something, man, more. And when you find yourself back at the starting point again, you're like, oh no, we're just on the second level. I'm not at the same level I was. It all looks the same. It's not the same. So
I love it. I love it.
Play this game. There you go. All right. But no, I mean, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. My show, I can use 2 words together. Okay. But no, I have enjoyed you, man. I have enjoyed you. This has been like a great conversation. Very insightful too, because it like sheds light on something that I don't really think we take time to think about at times,
Mm-hmm.
And especially with, those of us being in education, I'm not saying all, because
Mm-hmm.
some of my fellow educators out there be like, man, no. I'm like, look, I'm not talking about you, bro. There's others. Okay. But, no, I just think you shed light on something, very, necessary. And hey, for all of you who are in the system going through it right now, man, much love. Plan. Do not give up. Have hope. Have faith. Be inspired. All right? Because Charell said so.
Right, she did.
Man, once again, I thank you for being my guest. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Word with Ty Brownlow. I've been your host, Ty Brownlow. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Word with Ty Brownlow. Or you can just go to my website, tybrownlow.com, get this wonderful interview, plus other great interviews. Miss Charell Starr, I thank you.
Thank you.
We are people.